My name is Adeline Ashford and I'm 34 years old. For 3 years, I had been quietly paying for almost everything my family enjoyed. The mortgage on the house my parents and my younger sister Renata lived in, the family cruise fund, even the twins' summer camp that my mother insisted the whole family attend together as a bonding tradition. I never asked for credit. I just wanted my boys, Theo and Silas, to grow up feeling like they belonged to something bigger than just the two of us since their father passed away when they were 3. That morning started like any other. Coffee brewing, twins arguing over cereal, sunlight cutting through the kitchen blinds while I scrolled through the cruise itinerary one more time, checking cabin assignments, matching excursion tickets to names. Then my phone buzzed. It was my mother. I remember setting my mug down slowly because something about the timing felt wrong. Too early, too clipped. The message read: plans changed. You and the twins aren't coming. Your sister wants only real family on the cruise. I read it 3 times before it fully landed. Real family. Words I had heard my mother use before in passing, usually when comparing Renata's marriage to my widowhood, but never so directly, never aimed at my sons like a verdict. I called her immediately. She picked up on the 4th ring, background noise of clinking dishes, like she was making breakfast, unbothered. I asked her what she meant, and she sighed like I was the one being difficult. She said Renata felt uncomfortable with the boys on a romantic getaway with her new fiancé's family joining midway through the trip, that it wasn't personal. Just logistics. Just seating and cabin space. I asked whose idea the cruise even was. She paused. Mine, she admitted. But Renata's paying for the upgraded suites now, so it's really her trip to plan. I sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the granite countertop I had picked out for that house 2 years earlier. The one I helped my parents afford when their retirement fund fell short, the one Theo and Silas napped in, learned to ride bikes in front of, called their second home. I asked her one more question: are the boys and I still part of this family or not? And she didn't answer right away, which was answer enough. I told her I needed to think, and I hung up before my voice could crack in front of my sons, who were now watching me from the table, sensing something was wrong the way children always do. I sent them off to school that day with lunches packed and a promise that everything was fine. Then I sat at my desk with my laptop open and my hands steadier than I expected. I pulled up every account: the cruise deposit, the monthly contribution to my parents' mortgage, the tuition assistance for Renata's culinary courses that I had quietly funded for over a year without ever mentioning it to anyone outside my accountant. One by one, I canceled every automatic payment. I called the bank about the house next, the one legally still under my name because I was the one who qualified for the loan when my parents' credit couldn't clear it, the one they had lived in rent-free for 6 years believing it was simply family generosity with no strings attached. I contacted a realtor I trusted, explained the situation in a voice that surprised even me with how calm it sounded, and within hours a for sale sign was being ordered for a house I had never once lived in but had built with my own signature. That same day, I canceled the payments, sold the house they all lived in, and left town with my boys. I didn't scream. I didn't send an angry text. I didn't even tell them what I had done. I simply packed 2 suitcases, picked up Theo and Silas from school early, told them we were going on our own adventure, and drove 3 hours to a small coastal rental I had booked under a different name just in case anyone came looking too soon. The twins thought it was exciting, an impromptu beach trip, new sheets, new window that faced the water instead of a cul-de-sac. I let them believe that for now. What they didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that somewhere back home, paperwork was already moving, listings were already live, and a chapter of my life defined by quiet sacrifice was closing without permission from anyone but me. That evening, as the boys slept in a house that belonged only to us, I turned my phone to silent and set it face down on the nightstand, already sensing that the calm wouldn't last. And when my parents and Renata finally landed from their cruise, expecting to walk back into the home I had built for them, what awaited them instead would change everything. They landed on a Thursday afternoon, sunburned and relaxed, dragging suitcases full of duty-free perfume and matching sunglasses, and my mother's first instinct, according to the neighbor who called me later out of concern, was to walk straight up to the front door of that house like she had 1,000 times before. Except her key didn't turn. The lock had been changed 3 days earlier by the same locksmith I hired the morning I made every decision that would end up defining the rest of my life. My mother stood there confused, then irritated, then alarmed when she noticed the small red and white sign planted in the flower bed she used to tend every spring. The one that read sold, contingent, closing in 14 days. The neighbor, a kind older woman named Marguerite who had watched my boys grow up from her porch swing, said my mother's face went pale before she even called me. My phone had been off most of that day, tucked in a drawer while Theo and Silas built sandcastles outside our rental, learning to ride the small waves without floaties for the first time. When I finally turned it back on that evening, the screen lit up with something I hadn't expected: 43 missed calls stacked one on top of the other, voicemails overflowing, texts ranging from confused to furious to desperate. Is this a mistake? Call me right now. What did you do? We need that house. Please, Adeline, please call back. I sat on the porch steps with the ocean breeze pulling at my hair and read through them slowly, one by one, feeling something I hadn't expected to feel. Not guilt, not triumph either, just clarity. I finally called my mother back once the boys were asleep. Her voice cracked the second she heard mine, demanding answers, asking how I could do this to family, and I asked her calmly whose family she meant. The same family that canceled my sons from a vacation I paid for without a single conversation. She stumbled over her words, tried to soften it, said it was Renata's decision, not really hers, and I reminded her that she was the one who sent the message. She was the one who chose silence when I asked if my boys still counted as real family. There was a long pause, then Renata grabbed the phone, her voice sharp with the entitlement I had quietly funded for years without complaint, accusing me of overreacting, of destroying their home over one small miscommunication. I told her it wasn't a miscommunication. It was a decision, hers and our mother's, and decisions carry consequences. I explained, without raising my voice, that the mortgage had been under my name because none of them qualified a loan, that every payment for 6 years had come from my account, that the house was never a gift, only a loan of comfort I was choosing to reclaim. Renata called me cruel. I told her cruelty was excluding 2 8-year-old boys from a family cruise because their existence apparently complicated her fiancé's photo opportunities. Silence again. My mother came back on the line, this time pleading instead of accusing, asking where we would even go, what would happen to them now that the sale was already in motion, and I told her the truth, that I had already signed paperwork for a smaller home near the coast, one just big enough for the 3 of us, one where no one would ever again decide my sons weren't real enough to belong. I didn't gloat, I didn't list grievances from years past. I simply let her sit with the discomfort of consequence for the first time in longer than I could remember. Over the following days, the calls slowed from frantic to occasional, then finally to silence, replaced instead by a single email from Renata's fiancé's family lawyer inquiring about the house sale timeline, confirming that even they understood the ground had shifted permanently. I sold the property within 2 weeks, used part of the proceeds to buy our new home outright, and put the rest into savings accounts for Theo and Silas, ensuring their futures were finally protected by boundaries instead of guilt. Some nights I still think about the version of myself who would have apologized just to keep the peace, who would have found a way to pay for one more cruise, one more excuse, one more silent erasure of her own children for the comfort of people who never once considered mine. But watching Theo and Silas run barefoot along our new porch, laughing without knowing any of the storm that happened behind them, reminded me that walking away wasn't abandonment, it was protection. I built something new out of the wreckage of expectations that were never fair to begin with, and for the first time in years, my family, the one that actually mattered, felt whole. If this story moved you, if you believe real family means showing up for the people who show up for you, hit that subscribe button right now. Because there are so many more stories like this one waiting for you, and trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next.